So I'd like to hand over to Ros Pine, Director of Open Access Books and Book Policies at Springer Nature, who is chairing today's event. Thanks, Ros.
Thanks, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining this special session at Springer Nature's virtual hub at the Frankfurt Book Fair. Today, we're going to introduce you to the new OAPEN OA Books Toolkit. The Toolkit is a free-to-access, stakeholder-agnostic resource that aims to help authors better understand OA for books, increase trust in OA book publishing, provide reliable and easy-to-find answers to questions, and provide guidance on the process of publishing an OA book. Alongside OAPEN and the University of Glasgow, Springer Nature is a founding partner in the Toolkit. I'm joined today by Elka, Director of the OAPEN Foundation and Co-Director of the Directory of Open Access Books, as well as by two more of the Editorial Advisory Board for the Toolkit, Graham Stone, Senior Programme Manager for Open Access Book Monographs at JISC, and Lucy Barnes, Editor and Outreach Coordinator at Open Book Publishers. To start, Elka will give us a demonstration of the Toolkit, and we'll then move into a Q&A with our panellists. We'd really love to hear questions from you. You'll see that there's a chat box in the GoToMeeting function. And so please enter your questions at any time and we'll come back to them during the Q&A. All right, Elka, over to you for the Q&A, sorry, the demo.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Elka, it looks good, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Ros. So this is the homepage of the Toolkit. It has its own URL, its own homepage. It's not part of the OAPEN website to increase visibility and reach, we hope. The Toolkit consists of a wide range of short articles covering different topics relating to open access and the book publishing process. The articles were written in a collaborative effort by the Editorial Advisory Board. And I want to use this opportunity to thank all the people who helped develop the Toolkit. And I'm sure, you know, we did a great job in terms of working together. We would never have been able to do this by ourselves. So I'm very grateful to them. Now with that, let me show you around a bit. So here we have a menu bar with different articles on a more general nature about open access, about the open access books landscapes, and about the Toolkit. And you can go directly to articles such as what is open access and open access myth busting. Moving down a bit, you will see some buttons that act as navigation tools. So, for instance, frequently asked questions or keywords. If you have a question, you can see if it's answered in the frequently asked questions section, or if you have a particular topic in mind, you can go to keywords, and we'll take a look later. But there is this other thing, which is a life cycle, and that's a central part of the Toolkit, because we wanted to work from the perspective of the researcher or the author of a book, and felt that the research life cycle would be a good starting point. So a researcher might be in a particular phase of his research or her research, planning for research or considering publishing options. And then you can go to that specific phase and have a look at the articles that relate to that phase. And in doing so, you enter quite naturally into the Toolkit and get to relevant articles. So that's another way to navigate. And then moving down, there are some articles. So for instance, common myths about open access is an article in the Toolkit, and there are some blogs, and there is OAPEN's Twitter feed. Moving back up, I'd like to go to an article and show you how it's done. So here we are in Write and Submit manuscript, and there are some 3 articles relating to that phase. And one of them is how to choose a publisher for your open access book. You will see that there is it's a rather a short article. All the articles are quite short. and they're all set up in the same way with the title, a short abstract, and then the main text with links to other articles as they are relevant, like types of publishers and publishing services here. And this article is about how to choose a publisher and talks about the different aspects to think about when you're choosing a publisher, like the fees, the peer review, copyright and reuse rights, format, licensing, etc. Now, moving down, you'll see a box. And first of all, it contains a acknowledgement, because all these articles are actually based on existing sources as much as possible. And in this case, it's an article by Lucy Barnes, who was in the panel. And so that's an acknowledgement to the article she wrote. And then there are references, and you'll see quite a lot of reference in this case to leading to also the OAPEN website, but also OASPA, the Open Book Publishers website. And then there is a section on further reading. So if you're really interested in this subject and want to read more, you can easily find more information in the section on further reading. Right at the bottom, you'll see you can go to the next article or a previous article. And moving back up on the right-hand side, you can go back to the different stages of the life cycle. You can go to related articles, and you can go to keywords. So for instance, if I go to a keyword like license, you will see that there are different articles, quite a few, that use the word license, which isn't very surprising considering we're talking about open access. And you can go directly to those other articles. If we go to the keyword section, you can get an impression of all the topics that are addressed in these articles. I think probably about 40 different topics. And another way to look at these topics, or most of the topics, is to go to the glossary, which works in a similar way. So you can go, let's say you go to impact, and you'll find a definition, a very short definition based on the articles of the term impact. And you can then also go to the related article, in this case, metrics. And then you'll find another article where impact is dealt with. So that's another way to navigate using the glossary. To get a quick impression about the sources, the resources we used, you can go to the resource section, and there is a source acknowledgements, and you'll see quite an extensive list of articles that were used to write the articles in the toolkit from all over the world and from many different people, many different websites. So I'll leave it here with that and hand back to Ross.
Thanks very much, Elka. And yes, can I have the other panelists back on screen, please? Super. So thanks so much for taking us on a tour of the toolkit. Can you tell us a little bit, Elka, about why you decided to participate in this project, why you think it's the right thing for OAPEN to host?
Yeah, so first of all, this wasn't our idea. It was an idea that came up at the Research to Reader conference. I wasn't there, you were there, and a few other people, and this was an idea that was discussed. And so when we were approached, if we would like to host this, I immediately felt it was a great idea, and it fitted well within our mission, which is basically to promote open access book publishing. And but more importantly, I felt this was one of the areas where more work was needed. I think raising awareness and increasing understanding around open access books for authors is really one of the barriers that we need to face and surmount. to be able to make the transition to open access books. So that's the reason why we joined in the effort.
And Lucy, you're one of the editorial advisory board members. Can you tell us why you decided to participate and what you hope the project might achieve?
Yeah, so I supported the idea of building a resource like this among a group of people with different types of expertise. So I thought it was really valuable that the toolkit wanted to include different types of publisher, researchers, librarians. And as I work for a non-profit, scholar-led and born open access press, for anyone who doesn't know, that means a press which has always published open access at the dam. And I work with a few more as part of scholar-led and as a coping project. I felt that I could add that perspective and that it would be important for that to be part of the project. I like the fact that it's hosted on OAPEN, as it's such an important community platform for open access books. I think the toolkit will enrich what OAPEN's already able to offer. And as Elka mentioned, I hope it will educate researchers and authors to better understand their options when it comes to open access books, and to get a sense of the broader publishing landscape out there. I think there's a lot of misinformation and possibly even fear-mongering sometimes about open access books. So I hope that the toolkit can bring a bit of light to what can be a very heated conversation.
Yeah. And Graham, you come from a slightly different kind of perspective and background. Can you give us your thoughts on why you've joined in and what you hope the toolkit will bring to OA Books?
Yeah, two reasons really. I'll follow immediately on from what Lucy just said about misinformation and also very legitimate concerns from researchers looking at open access. I think the toolkit is a good way of certainly addressing the misinformation, but also taking on those concerns. So areas such as third-party rights and things like that, the toolkit mentions them and hopefully can guide people in the right direction. And really, then we can encourage a transition to open access, which is something that the organisation I represent, JISC, is very keen to do. Secondly, as well, and I suppose slightly selfishly, I've been working in this area for some time. JISC is also looking at a companion toolkit. We didn't realise both of us were looking at toolkits at the same time. We're looking at one that supports new university presses and library-led presses. So when we found out about the two toolkits, immediately we got together to make sure that they complement each other. They appeal to different audiences, but hopefully both very useful, and we can get the message across to a really wide range of people.
Thanks. And as Elka mentioned earlier, the process of writing the toolkit was a very collaborative one with a lot of different people involved. And Lucy and Graham, I know you were both big contributors to that process and to the writing. Can you tell us a bit about how it worked and also about what your priorities were when writing and reviewing articles for the toolkit?
Yeah, sure. I can kick off if that's all right, Graham. So there was basically a buddy system with the articles. So we put ourselves forward to write articles that we felt we had a certain amount of expertise in, and then each author had a buddy. So that was important because it meant that the article wasn't just written from one person's perspective, basically. So the author would write a first draft, the buddy would give comments, the author would rework the article in line with the buddy's comments, and then the editorial board as a whole, who weren't all involved writing the articles, were then able to give their feedback, and they were quite a broad range of people who were coming from different perspectives. And then the articles would be redrafted one more time, and finally they were in a kind of a decent state then to be ready for the toolkit. And in terms of priorities, I think for me it was clarity and concision. I think the tier structure that Elka mentioned of the articles helped with that you had this kind of 1-line, 2-line summary, and then you could kind of expand throughout the article. And I think taking the feedback seriously as well, being mindful that you as the author didn't know everything about what you were writing about, and that it was important to listen to what other people had to say and to take those comments on board in the writing process. And I think it was actually quite enjoyable as well to do that and to hear those different perspectives.
Yeah, definitely. Graham, what was your experience of contributing to writing the toolkit?
Well, yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was a great deal of collaboration, which was great, especially when we were writing it and we're all sat here in our little individual boxes. it was nice to do that and have that collaboration. I think as well, the writing process was made very straightforward, and Elka's thanked the editorial team. I think the editorial team should thank Elko and Tom at OAPEN as well, because they made it very straightforward for us, very easy for us to get involved. Although we don't know everything about every aspect, to a certain extent, we were certainly writing towards our strengths as well. So it was actually quite pleasing to be able to splurge some stuff out in not that long, and then have other people develop it and comment on it. I think priorities, getting things across in a succinct and jargon-free way, I think was also a priority. I mean, we're writing this toolkit for researchers who may not know an awful lot about OA. That's why they're there. Not always easy for people like us who are immersed in all of this to be succinct and jargon-free, but I think we've managed it so far.
Yes, and feedback certainly very welcome. And talking of feedback, if anyone in the audience has questions about the toolkit, then you can just drop them into the chat box, and we'll try and discuss them later on. So this is just the first iteration of the toolkit. It was released at the end of September, and I know we have plans to review it and update it fairly soon in light of early feedback. And there are also plans for regular annual updates. The editorial advisory board will stay involved and will make sure that the toolkit remains relevant. Elka, can you tell us a bit about how you hope it will develop in the coming months and years?
Yes, there are a couple of areas where I hope we'll be able to develop, either on the long term or really following the launch. One area is where it's about funding. I think that's a central area where authors are really looking for information and help, and I hope we can add some more information or make it more easy to inform authors about their opportunities to find money to publish in open access. And I think that's an area where I'd like also to think about further collaboration to make that part of the toolkit. And another area came up actually as we launched, which is that if you look at the toolkit, you can see it's still about let's say, in a broad sense, European book publishing, although that's varied in itself. We want to be global, and I think we can add more information about publishing and the way it's done in other regions, in other parts of the world, in Latin America, in North America, in Africa. And we have planned an article about open access books in low and middle income countries, but I think we can do much more. So that's an area where I hope we'll expand as well.
Excellent. Graham, do you have any thoughts on how the toolkit should develop in the future, perhaps also in conjunction with the other toolkit you're developing?
Yeah, I suppose we need to hear from the community about how things need to develop. I think we've done a pretty good start. I think everybody involved pretty much thinks we picked up everything that we thought we needed to launch. We really need to hear from the community. We need engagement. So who knows where it could go to a certain extent. We need to know what's missing. We need to know what we didn't address, or what we did address and it's not to people's satisfaction. So I think it will evolve. I hope the first iteration potentially will be quite a big one as we hear things like that, but then we can keep going over time, and it's the go-to resource. As I hope the toolkit we're developing will be the same for library-led presses as well, and we know that's a growing movement, and hopefully we can point those presses towards this toolkit so that they can inform their potential authors, and vice versa. So hopefully it's a start of great things.
Lucy, do you have any thoughts on future development for the toolkit and what you'd like to see?
I think really just to kind of emphasise what Elka said about the importance of reflecting different national contexts. I'm part of the COAPEN project, which I mentioned earlier, which is building open infrastructure to better support open access book publishing. And we're kind of in the research phase at the moment. And as part of that, we've been speaking to librarians in different countries across Europe at the moment. But just that research has thrown up just how specific national contexts matter for open access books. And I think similarly, multiple languages. It would be great to see it translated into different languages and to see those kind of national variations reflected at that level as well.
Cool, thank you. And we've got a couple of questions from the audience. So first, someone's asked, what's the reaction been like since the launch? Elka, I don't know if you've got any kind of first information on who's been looking at it, early feedback.
Well, I haven't a list of specific feedback, but in general, I can say it was really great to, the way people responded. Everybody, most people were really enthusiastic. There was a lot of tweeting. We were really happy with how it was received, and many people congratulated us and hoped it would be something that many people would use. So yeah, encouraging in general, I'd say.
And someone else has asked, are you planning to add more information on green? And in particular, what about a Sherpa Romeo-like approach to books?
Yeah.
Elka, do you want to take that one first? And then maybe Graham? Yeah,
this isn't relating to books. Green is actually a tough subject. It's a subject that we still need to deal with properly as a community, and I'm very much aware of the need for more attention for green, and we're thinking about how to do that. And of course, Sherpa Romeo is a great example of how you can sort out policies and make it easier for the community to deal with green OA. So we're definitely paying attention, and I hope to make some changes to our own website, and perhaps we can also do something in the toolkit.
Graham, I don't know if you want to kind of add to that from a JISC perspective.
Well, I suppose from a JISC perspective, a Sherpa Romeo for books would be a lovely idea. It's not the first time it's been mentioned. There's mention of it in one of the UUK reports from last year, I think, 2019, 2018. But yes, I think just as was said in the introduction that the toolkit is publisher agnostic, we should probably be agnostic about the colour of open access as well. As Elka said, there are difficulties in some areas, but there's certainly potential as well. So yeah, it's a comment that we can take on board and we can have a look at.
Thanks. And we've just got a few minutes left. So to finish up, I'd like to ask all of you, what have you learned as a result of your participation in this project? Lucy, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I think it's just emphasised to me the value of projects that cut across job roles or company lines, or these sort of usual sort of silos or distinctions, and that keep sort of to bring people from different backgrounds together to work on something. And I think that process is always going to be incomplete. You can never perfectly represent every group, but I think it's important to keep working at it and to keep doing it better. And to keep supporting projects that are trying to work in that way, and I think this is a really good example of something that's doing that.
Graham?
Yeah, it was nice to be on a project, I guess, where we all left our day jobs at the door. We're all passionate about open access, and that's what drove us. And so it was great to have such a wide group of people. As I said before, I loved the collaborative process. I also think it was, at a personal level, it was pretty humbling to be in a room full of that many experts. I looked down the list of people and I thought, blimey, they've asked me as well. And it was a great experience.
Thanks. And Elka, final thoughts on what you've learned?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat what Lucy and Graham said. I think so. The value of working collaboratively across, different types of people, different types of backgrounds. I think that was really worthwhile. The thing, what it means is that we're all more engaged in this product, and it will help us develop it moving forward. We feel confident that we built it ourselves, so we can carry on with it, and we're much more into it. So I think it will help us really maintaining the toolkit as well.
Thanks. Well, thank you very much, Elka, Lucy, and Graham, for your insights, and to our audience members for tuning in and for your questions. Do check out the toolkit online and let us know if you have any feedback. I'm not sure if we can flip at this point to Christina's screen so we can see the link to the toolkit URL. There's also a newsletter that you can sign up to if you want to receive regular updates. Thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of your virtual Frankfurt Book Fair.
Thanks.